over this second review. All right, it starts off, we've got 5 statements that are the components of Austin's SMART goal, and we just need to categorize those. So the first one, Austin will spend 25 less on entertainment every month and save that instead. That is the achievable aspect of his goal. All right, that details how he's going to make progress toward the goal. Austin will save money for college. That's the specific goal. All right, he'll save money for the next 2 years is the timeliness. He'll save $600. That's the measurable that identifies how much is needed to consider the goal met. And he's determined the opportunity cost is more valuable than spending that money is the relevant. That's the why. All right. And so if we were to rewrite this goal, I would say Austin will contribute. Whoa, Austin will contribute $600 to his college savings by spending 25 less on entertainment each month for the next 2 years. Okay. And obviously how you write that up is going to be unique and a little bit different, but you should be able to get those components into that, 1 or 2 sentences. All right. Next up, let's see, following goals do not contain all elements, identify the missing one, and explain why. All right, I plan to save $1,500 to buy a used car. I'll do this by canceling my DirecTV service and saving that $75 instead. All right, so of the components of SMART, all right, what's missing here is, excuse me, we're missing the timely component. All right. So come up here. And why? Because it lacks the specific timeline that we are identifying when we want to accomplish this by, right? We don't say when the deadline is to purchase this used car. We don't say how long it's going to take. Now I could rewrite this and figure out it's going to take me 20 months. If I'm saving $75 a month, it's going to take me 20 months. So I mean, I could come back and add that to it if I wanted to rewrite the goal to make it a SMART goal. All right, but as it is, it's missing that timely component. Next one, I plan to save 2,500 by automatically depositing 105 in my paycheck from my paycheck into savings account each month for 2 years. So from here, what's missing? I'm missing the specific or the relevant aspect, or maybe depending on how you look at it, both, right? Because it specifies how much we want to save. It specifies the time frame that we want to save it by, but we don't provide, or this individual doesn't provide any clarity or any explanation about what that $2,500 is going to be used for, right? We don't really know why we're saving 2,500. So maybe it is for a vacation. Maybe it is for an emergency fund. Maybe it's for whatever. All right. But as it is, we don't know. Whoops. As it is, we don't really know what it is that we're saving for. All right. I plan to save $500 for college living expenses in 2 years. Okay, so again, we've got the specific element. We want to save money for college living expenses. We've got measurable, $5,000. We've got our timeliness, 2 years. Again, though, we don't have any indication about how we're going to get to that 5,000 or how our progress toward 5,000 is going to be measured. And so in this case, we're missing the achievable component. All right. So again, we know why we're saving, we know how much we're saving, we know when we need it by, but we don't know how we're going to get there. Okay. We don't have that plan of action. We don't have that achievable component. Last one, instead of signing up for a cell phone plan, I'll use that money instead to buy a new computer in 1 year. I'll do this by saving the $50 I would have spent on a cell phone bill every month. All right. So we know why we're saving for a new computer. We know what we're saving for, or what the goal is. We're saving money. We know how much we're saving each month at $50. All right. We know that we want it within a year, but what we don't know is we don't have a measurable element to it. We don't have the total dollar amount that we need to save in order to buy the computer that we want. All right. So again, all these are a little bit more in depth in terms of applying our understanding and our knowledge of SMART goals in terms of not only knowing what the components are, but being able to analyze incomplete goals and being able to pick out what's missing and explain why that's missing. All right. So these would all be higher level questions. And I kind of alluded to it earlier. We could make this even more in depth by adding one more component to it, and that would be to then take what we know about what's missing and why, and now rewrite the goal and incorporate that missing element. Right. So I could rewrite this and say something along the lines of, instead of signing up for a cell phone plan, I'll save that money to buy a new computer in 1 year. I'll do this by saving $50 each month until I have a total of $600 to buy the computer. Right. Now I know how much I need to save and how much total I need to accomplish to be ready to purchase that computer. Right. So relatively easy just to insert, a clause in there somewhere that just puts in whatever was missing. All right. Moving on to the second page. Okay, we've got a couple of multiple choice. That's again just kind of making sure that we understand some key foundational elements to understanding choices with regard to education and employment. So the first one, primary difference between public colleges and universities and private colleges would be, again, public colleges are primarily supported by state funding, right, by public funding, whereas private colleges receive most of their funding from private sources like student tuition. And so those public colleges generally have lower costs than the private colleges. All right, so option C. Second one, which of the following are the best references to include on a resume or job application? Best friend, no. Simply too young and too biased. Former employers would potentially be good. They can talk about, what kind of an employee you were, what kind of a worker you were. They can talk about your work ethic and your commitment and your, what type of worker this new job could expect. Parents, while they would hopefully speak glowingly of you, again, are biased. And then the kid who sits next to you in class, generally employers want to hear from adults, not kids. So the best option here is B, former employers. All right. Last one, which of the following individuals would you expect are in the highest salary? Again, we know for the most part that as our educational level rises, our potential earnings would rise. We also know that more years of experience generally leads to higher pay as well. All right. So we want to keep that in mind as we compare each individual. Justine, who has a master's degree and 4 years work experience. Ahmad, who has a bachelor's degree from a state university and 2 years experience. Michaela has an associate degree from a community college and 6 months experience. Or Stephen, who has a high school diploma and 3 years working experience. All right, most likely Justine, you would expect to have the highest salary. All right. And then the last question says, as a recent high school graduate, you have 4 career options in mind: becoming a licensed plumber, attending a 2-year community college for an associate's degree in business, a 4-year college degree in computer coding, or a 4-year degree in political science, and then attending law school. Okay. And so you need to kind of analyze each option, identifying pros and cons of each, and it gives some suggested factors to think about in terms of education costs, earnings, job security, job satisfaction, and so on. All right. So for the plumber, this is what I came up with, right? Generally, in order to earn that license, you'll need some sort of apprenticeship or vocational training, but you typically won't need any kind of official in-class, education. You don't need to pursue an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. All right. So a lot of this is on the job training. Okay. So initial costs are very low. You can start in on earning money right away. Okay. Job security is good because, there's always demand for, you know, hands-on work. There's always demand for that kind of human labor, right? That can't be, just kind of passed off to AI, or it can't be digitized. Okay, if you enjoy and you're capable of working with your hands, okay, job security is really good. Potential earnings are are pretty good, especially as you become more experienced, whether that is becoming self-employed and working for yourself, or whatever, right? And that also provides the potential for a lot of work-life balance, in that if you are self-employed, you can determine how many evenings you're on call, or if you're on call on the weekend. Um, so, while working evenings and weekends isn't always the best for creating work-life balance, you may be able to have a little bit more control over determining just how often you do that. But overall, a good career path. The second option was an associate's degree in business. All right, so more formal education than a licensed plumber, which means more schooling and more costs. So education costs are going to be higher. You'll be delayed into the workforce by a couple of years. All right, earning potential is on a 2-year degree in business is probably going to be limited. Um, so job security might be limited, advanced career advancement and upward earning potential might be limited without further education, without then completing a 4-year degree or so on. All right. So again, there are advantages there in terms of lower costs. You're in the workplace earlier than if you were pursuing a 4-year degree or an advanced degree. All right. But limited upward mobility, limited career options with that 2-year degree. Okay, for a 4-year degree in coding, all right, your initial costs are going to be much higher. Your college education, student loans are going to be much more than either of the previous two that we've looked at. But good job security, right? There's a demand for computer coding. Those jobs are in high demand, are highly sought. Um, Down the road with experience, they can pay very, very well. The nature of allowing you to work remotely, potentially from home, okay, does contribute again to the potential for a really nice work-life balance. All right, so some really good options, but do keep in mind you're waiting a couple more years to get into the earnings, to get into your career, and you'll also have significantly more education costs. And then the last option, a 4-year degree and then continuing education into law school. Again, these are going to have the highest costs of the 4 options. Okay, the longest wait before entering the workforce. All right, so you're missing out on many years of earnings to start with. But the converse to that, the trade-off to that is there's potential, especially in law, potentially really significant earnings potential down the road. Though work-life balance is going to be tough. It's early on, especially your first 5-10 years in law. Those early years in a legal career can be very demanding from your personal time, and so balancing your work life with your personal life can be very tough. But again, the trade-off is potential for a very lucrative income. All right. So that's what I put down. This isn't to say that this is absolutely what you should have or could have. Your interpretation of some of the advantages and disadvantages might be slightly different. All right. But this gives you at least one way of looking at it. And again, I didn't ask you to make a decision about which one is best, simply to weigh advantages and disadvantages of each. All right. And so looking forward to the assessment, there will be a mix of level 1, level 2 questions, right? Some that are a little bit more just kind of definition based, or just kind of spitting out, what does this stand for? What does this mean? Give an example, right? Those would be, just defining things level 1, give example, that's kind of level 2. But then once we start to apply it, right? We're not just saying what SMART stands for. We're not just describing what each element of SMART stands for. All right, we're actually doing some analyzing. We're looking at this, we're figuring out what is missing and how we know it's missing. All right, so you need to know not just what the 5 components are, but what they entail. All right, and then again, I said we could take it even farther and rewrite the goal to include what was missing. All right. You can expect probably some questions also about writing your own SMART goals and making sure that they have all 5 components and so on. For the 1.2 standard, again, there's some basic understanding of the differences between public schools and private schools, understanding the basic relationship between increased education and increased income or earnings over your lifetime. All right. So those would be just kind of the basics, but then This example would be more of a level 3, level 4, where we start to analyze how do different jobs differ and what are the trade-offs between earning right away versus continuing with schooling, the trade-offs in terms of having a job versus increasing your education costs, but then what effect does that have over lifetime earnings and so on. All right, so this gives you a pretty good idea of the types of questions that you can expect on our first assessment. So spend some time later today reviewing the material. If you have questions, reach out to me at any point during the day. All right. Let me know if you have any issues, if anything's not making sense for these first two standards. So enjoy the day, and then we'll talk tomorrow. Okay. Yeah.